Hi everyone, it's Andrea over at Sewspire.com, and today we are here to craft the interior of our Autumn Tote and finish assembling the bag. So in part one of this four-part series, I went over all of the pattern measurements and how to prepare those for this project. In addition, there is a PDF download which you can purchase for a nominal fee that will include all the pattern measurements, material requirements, and then very concise written instructions to supplement this four-part video tutorial. So we're going to get started in just a moment crafting the interior. But before we do, I just want to mention to you that next week we are going to be making tassels to accessorize this beautiful bag, and I will be sharing some of the tips and feedback that I received from the master class that is currently working on designing a bag, and some of the ladies in that group are working on the Autumn Tote. So I'll be happy to share that experience with you next week. So we're going to get started right away, and what I want to begin with is the zipper panels here. You're going to have two pieces of the home decor or canvas which are backed with the Pellon 808 or 809. And then you're going to have two pieces of the cotton. And so what you want to do is pair those up so that you have two sets, one of each type, and then position those right sides facing. And we're going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance to stitch the sides and across one of the long edges. These are going to be the panels that will frame out our recessed zipper closure. Okay, so I've stitched around three sides of both panels, and now I want to turn those right sides out, poke out those corners really well. And then I'm going to head over to the iron and press this good and flat, and then turn those raw edges inward 1/2 inch and press nice. So I will be right back to show you what those look like. So I have my zipper panels pressed nice and neat, and I have taken those raw edges and turned them inward so that everything is finished on both sides. And now I want to take those open edges and position those so that they are facing, and I'm going to cut a like size piece of the zipper by the yard and tuck that zipper tape in between those folded edges there so that my zipper is encased in there. And then I am going to need to cut little zipper stops from that vegan leather that I'm using, and two 1 inch by 2 inch cuts should be fine for that, and they are going to go at the ends just to keep that zipper from unzipping. For this project, I ordered a zipper pull that has a donut hole in the end, and that is so I can attach my tassel to that, and that's going to add a nice little touch to the bag, which, if you are just joining us, this is what the exterior of this gorgeous bag looks like. I will link to the first two videos in the tutorial down in the notes for you, as well as the PDF, so that you have everything in one spot. So you may want to give some thought to what type of zipper you use or what kind of pull if you'll be crafting the tassel accent. You also have the option of using a ready-made zipper, of course, And oh good, I'm glad. I've already pre-cut my zipper here. At least I think that that was for this project. I'm pretty sure it is. So I'm looking to get about a 12.5-inch cut of zipper here. Yours is going to vary depending upon the seam allowance that you used. It is also okay if you want to attach your zipper to this finished edge and have it longer. You'll just have to make sure that you keep it out of the seams when we are assembling the interior, but that's definitely an option. And I believe I did something similar in the Catherine tote. However, for this project, I want to have that zipper nice and finished. So I have my donut pull here, and it took me a long time to figure this out, but it's the larger part of the zipper pull that you feed on to the zipper teeth, not the smaller end. And then once you get that on there, it just zips up. Okay, so now I have my zipper pull on my zipper, and so I'm just going to tuck that in between. And for this, I like to use pins. And I'm going to go ahead and butt those zipper teeth right up against that fabric. And if you have a ready-made zipper, you can trim that as well if you want to encase the entire zipper. Okay, so now I have the zipper tape sandwiched in between the folded edges of my zipper frames here. And now I want to take that non-fraying vegan leather and tuck that up in between those layers on both sides. And that's going to act as my zipper stop so that when I'm unzipping the bag, I don't accidentally zip that pull right off of the zipper tape. Okay, so that's what it looks like after you get that vegan leather tucked in between. And that's the back of that. And now I just want to put this up on the machine and stitch down both sides to secure all the layers. And then I am going to add a second row of stitching for detail. Okay, now I have my zipper framed out beautifully, and I am going to start crafting the interior. So this bag has 3 slip pockets on the inside, or I should say has 1 slip pocket that is divided to create 3 individual pockets. And I am going to be crafting a swivel key fob from that vegan leather and then installing 2 rivets in that. And my key fob will be sandwiched in between the top layers of that pocket so that the keys can be tucked inside the pocket or hang on the outside of the pocket. In the PDF, I give you instructions if you'd like to create a fabric strap. So the first step for me is to attach the rivets to this key key fob so that I have that ready when it comes time to tuck that in between the pocket layers. So I just have a swivel fob here that is 1 inch, and then I have a 1 inch strip of the vegan leather, which I folded in half and pre-punched the holes, also using the cam press for that. So I'm just going to line those holes back up. And then I'm going to insert my rivets. And if you're not familiar, the rivets come with a post and a cap, and they are really easy to install if you have a press. They are also totally optional, so you could just craft a fabric strap and skip the rivets. So I install the post and then the cap. And then I position that on my press. And that's all it takes to install a rivet. It's really a very useful tool, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. Okay, now I have a very nice key fob ready. So I'm going to bring back over my pocket, and what I have done is press the top edge and the bottom edge of this pocket over a 1/2 inch, and then I folded that in half to create a fully lined pocket. I did stagger that just a bit so I have a nice lip at the top of the pocket, and so I'm just going to tuck my key fob in there, put a pin to hold that in place. And then I'm going to run 2 rows of stitching across the top of the pocket. And then I have a very nice pocket that is fully lined and sturdy. I'm going to go ahead and press in the vertical stitch lines on that, and I just fold it in thirds, and then you might be able to finger pressures, or you can take that over to the iron, and that will make it much easier when it comes time to divide that pocket. But before we can do that, we have to get this interior panel set up. So we have 2 of the mid panels, and then we have 2 of the top panels and 2 of the base panels, and those are all quilt weight cotton fabric, and they are backed with the Pellon 808. You can also use 809 if that's what you happen to have. So I want to take my zipper panel and I want to align that towards the very top of a mid panel. I hear those landscapers coming through, so I'm going to go close the window real quick. Okay, so I'm going to take the zipper panel face up and center that on my mid panel. So that works out to be 1 3/4 inches from each side. Your measurements might vary slightly depending upon your seam allowance. Then you're going to take your top panel and position that right sides facing on top to create a fabric sandwich, which includes the top panel, the zipper panel, and that mid panel. And so using 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, stitch across that to attach. And that's that's what that looks like when you open it up, and the zipper is right even with that seam allowance, so it does not protrude any further than the seam allowance. And then I'm going to repeat the same process on the opposite side. So the easiest way to do that is to lay the second mid panel on your surface, then the free end of that zipper on top of that. And again, it's really important to center that and make sure the zipper is face up. Then take your remaining top panel and create that sandwich, which includes the top panel, the free end of your zipper panel, and your mid panel. And then go ahead and use 3/8 of an inch seam allowance to secure all those layers. And that's what it looks like from the top view, the side view, and if you were to open it up from the inside like that. So this really is a clean, simple, recessed zipper installation method. I did something similar with the Catherine bag, and I will continue to refine this process in future tutorials. So if you haven't had a chance yet, please do subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out when those tutorials are published. So now I want to open this panel up so that I see the reverse side of the zipper and my interior panels. And I am going to now attach the base panels to the base of these mid panels. And so I want to center those on the mid panels, and that works out to be 2 3/4 inches from each side. I'm going to get both of those in place so that I can attach them at the same time. Okay, so here's what my panel looks like, and I am now using the 5/8 of an inch seam allowance to attach these base panels to the mid panel. And now this is my interior panel from all views there. And so pick which side is going to have your pocket panel on it. And again, open that whole panel up so that the zipper is facing down. So you see the wrong side of the zipper, and bring back over your finished pocket panel there, and go ahead and position that 1 to 2 inches up from that seam that your base is joined to the mid panel with. I think in the PDF I recommended 1 inch. Looking at this, I'm definitely going to come up 2 inches from that seam that joins the base to the mid panel. Anywhere between 1 and 2 inches will be fine. The consideration really is, though, when we create the depth on the bag, we do encroach upon that mid panel, and so you may not want to sew into your pocket. So that's why I'm coming up 2 inches. So now I'm going to stitch across the base of the pocket and then divide that down those vertical stitch lines so that I have 3 pocket sections. Alright, so I have my pocket panel attached and divided. Now I want to line up the base of this bag. And then the sides of this bag. And when you line up the sides, take care to capture the top of that pocket with your clips or pins so that it doesn't fold in and miss being captured in the seam allowance. You could definitely add another pocket to the opposite side of this bag if you like. With the big totes, I generally like to just have one set of pockets so that I can put other contents in the bag. Like you could use it to pack for a long day trip, and you might have larger things going in there, and in that case I find the pockets kind of reduce or inhibit the use of the bag, so I only put in one row of pockets on the big totes. That's my preference anyways. Okay, so now what we want to do is have this zipper here so that it is out of the way and it's completely safe from being captured in the seam. So I'm just going to go ahead and zip up my zipper there and then use some clips to hold that so that it is folded upright towards the top of this panel. And I'm going to now stitch down the side. I'm going to go ahead and stitch those seams down towards the base. And I'm going to stop here at the end of the side, and I'll stitch the other side, and then I'm going to stitch across the base. I am not doing anything with these notches at this point. And you are using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so I've stitched the sides and across the base. I do want to trim back some of the material from the top of this interior, and that's just because I'm going to be turning it over and I don't want there to be too much bulk at the top there. And so now I can go ahead and open up this zipper. And I'm going to remove any pins that I have holding that pocket in place. And then I just want to verify that I did capture all of the layers, including the pocket in that side seam. And that looks good. So now I want to reach inside and align that base seam with the side seam, and that's how I'm going to give this bag its depth. And so what I have to do is draw a line across here that's going to offer me 5 inches of depth. So I am going to be encroaching upon that mid panel with this line, but hopefully not across my pocket, because that was the point of bumping that up to 2 inches. So I just take my clear ruler and flatten that down and then draw a 5-inch straight line across there so that I can stitch nice and straight. And you're just going to stitch right on that line. And then have a peek and make sure that you capture both layers and look inside, and it looks really good. I like that look. And then repeat that process on the other side so that your bag has 5 inches of depth on both sides. You want to make sure that the fabric is as flat as you can get it so you don't accidentally stitch in any wrinkles. And same thing, check inside and make sure that it looks good, and it is really pretty. I doubt you can see all the way in there, but you might be able to get a feel for that. So now I do want to trim away the excess here to the right of that stitch line. And so in total there are 3 seams running across the base of this bag. You can see that good on the exterior. My purse feet are crooked on that. I do have a workaround for that, which I will share in that 4th video. I don't work with purse feet very often, so I'm still very much perfecting that process. But what we do have now is a really nice interior with a great zipper. So I want to take that top edge and fold that over about a 1/2 inch. And I want to get that nice and even. Once you do the sides, the front and back kind of naturally fall into place, and this pellon allows for finger pressing, so that's very convenient. And then you want to fit your zipper down in there so that there's no chance it's going to get caught up in the top stitching. Make sure that both sides of the bag are nice and even. And here's what that looks like. It really is a very secure zipper. I cannot fit my hands in on the sides of that, so that's wonderful. But then it opens up and you can see all your goodies. And that's what that looks like, so I'm thrilled with that. Now I want to bring back over the exterior, which I have positioned the handles on that. And so this is going to be the front of my bag with the tag. So I want my pockets along the back side of this bag. So I'm just going to fit that interior inside of this exterior. And it helps if you unzip it and reach inside of there. This is a very stable bag with the foam on the exterior and the pellon and the canvas. It's just beautiful. So I begin by lining up the sides first. Once I know I have those side seams aligned, then I make my way around the front and back. All right, and so once you're happy with the positioning of your handles and you have your interior fit nice inside of there, then you're going to want to stitch all the way around the perimeter of this bag to secure all of the layers. This part is what I call sewing on the top of the bag. It's best to do this when you have a full bobbin and you have no distractions, because this really is the finishing touch on this bag, and you want that top stitching nice and straight. So just go slow, and if needed, postpone this process until you have a quiet time that you can do this with a focused mind. So I like to begin at the side seam and just fit this up on the machine. And I have the right hand edge of the foot aligned right with the top of the bag. And so I'm just going to go nice and slow all the way around the bag. And for this project, I'm using a 90-14 needle and a 3.0 stitch length. When I come to the handles, I am going to reinforce those with a back stitch. Wow, I am really excited about this bag. Oh my gosh, I'm sure I've said this before, but this might be one of my favorites. Based upon the stability and just the classic styling of this bag. Oh my goodness, I'm really, really happy with how this project came together. And I just know that tassel is going to be so fabulous with this. Look at how gorgeous that is. So I made it all the way around that top edge. I did reinforce at the handles, and if you wanted, if you knew you were going to be carrying a really heavy load inside of this bag, I suggest you go back in and add a second row of stitching. You could take that stitching all the way around that top edge, or you could just add a second row at the handles, and I very well may do that. Another option is to put 2 rivets in at each handle. You are going through a fair amount of layers there, so you may need to increase the size of your rivets, but you can see how that tassel attaches to the zipper and sits there like, whoa. I think I'm bumping this bag up to #1 favorite Sewspire. So for 2021, this is awesome. Okay, so just to recap here, I want to give you the finished measurements on this. The exterior at the base is 11.5. The depth on this was 5 inches. The height was 14, and then let me double check that height. No. The height is more like, it's 14 with the purse feet. The purse feet kind of give it a little lift. So 14 if I put the ruler on the table. If I do it along the side seam, it's 13.5. The handle drop is 7 3/4, which is nice and short. There's definitely an opportunity to attach a shoulder strap to this. If you wanted to make a removable shoulder strap, that would be a really nice addition to this. And then we have the zip top closure. I'm going to show you next week how to make the awesome tassel. And then when you go inside, you have 3 slip pockets plus your swivel fob. So just really, truly gorgeous bag. Love it. And it is absolutely perfect for fall. So I want to thank you for sewing with me today. This was a really great project, and it dovetailed beautifully with my design masterclass, which is unfolding at this same time. I will be back next week with you to teach you how to make the tassel and share some tips for constructing this particular project. And then in November, we are going to start another bag. I talked to you last week about the new format that I'm going to be using going forward into 2022, and that will be in week 1. We will go over the pattern and all of the pattern measurements and material requirements and preparations And then in week 2, we'll assemble the exterior. In week 3, we'll assemble the interior. And in week 4, we will add the finishing touches, and I will answer any questions, and we can share tips and exchange ideas about the design. All right, so as always, thank you for joining me. Please know the creative genius in me will be celebrating the creative genius in you. Have a beautiful week, everyone, and I hope to see you on Friday for my inspirational vlog.